Let's talk about the editorial relationship for the traditionally published author. So, I spent the majority of my career up to this point as a traditionally published author, and I wrote for several of the major publishers in New York. And I had different experiences with each one and with every editor I had. One of the things that happens to a lot of us is the editor who buys your first book for that publisher will often move on. Whether they'll move to another publisher or they'll get promoted or whatever happens, there's a reason why they can't edit you anymore and you get put with someone else. Sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. I just have one thing to say. If the revisions you get from your editor make you feel like you're not a very good writer, if they make you question your validity as a storyteller, that editor probably isn't the right one for you. It doesn't matter if they are fantastic for somebody else. It doesn't matter if they, as a person, are amazing. You need an editor who works for you. Now, there are not a lot of options as a traditionally published author to change that, but they do exist. Not easily. It's not going to happen without confrontation, and yes, there is a potential for backlash. It's up to you whether or not it is worth it to you to try. So you can request a different editor, and I suggest strongly using verbiage that is not critical of the editor you currently have, because that editor might work for a dozen other authors at the publishing house, but they don't work for you. That's okay. You need to acknowledge that doesn't mean they're a bad editor. It means they're a bad fit for you. So yes, you can go to the senior editor and you can request a different editor. You can also be very frank with the editor you are working with and say, when you give me feedback in this way, it does not work for me. Would you be willing to try to give it to me in this way? Every way to fix an editorial conflict is going to require you to be willing to have an open and honest discussion with somebody, whether it's the editor you're currently working with or their boss or your agent who can do this for you if you're agented. So, the biggest thing that you need to remember as a traditionally published author is that that editor didn't do you a favor buying your book. That you don't owe them any kind of loyalty or willingness to stick with them if that relationship isn't working. But like I said, yes, there can be backlash. I've had it both ways. I've had a very positive experience moving on to other editors, and I've had a very negative experience moving on to other editors. So I'm not going to promise it's easy peasy. I'm just going to tell you that there's only one way to fix it, and that's be willing to talk about it. And if you're not willing to fix it, then you have to find in yourself a way to work with that editor that allows you not to feel like you are a bad writer and not to feel like you have to gut every book. And by gut, I mean if you're making more changes than 30% of your novel, that's not reasonable. And no matter what your publisher wants to tell you, that's not okay. Because I tell you, in everybody's contract, we have to pay if we want to make more changes after the process. So, excuse me, but they should be paying you if they want you to write a whole new book for them. Where is that other advance? It's not there. So, take a minute and think about what you really want and how to get it from your traditional publishing house. Is there a way that you can write a book that doesn't require a lot of revision? You might be looking at certain things that you might be getting the same commentary back over and over again, and it may not resonate with you as a writer. But if you are determined to stay with that publishing house, then you have to find a way to make it work. And I know you can do it. I know that you have the creative energy inside of you to write the stories that are going to work for the publishing house and for you. I made a decision to go indie. It's not because I think that that's what everyone else should do. It's because that is what worked for me at the time, and I am very happy with the outcome. It doesn't mean you'd feel the same. So I am not in any way encouraging you to go indie, but what I am encouraging you to do is to be open and honest with your editor, to request revision notes in a way that you can take them without feeling demoralized. And if you cannot do those things, to find something in yourself to be able to take the notes, change the book in a way, again, that doesn't leave you feeling demoralized. And I'll tell you a little secret. The best way to do that is to have good writing friends who you can vent to and talk about this with, who can give you ideas and suggestions for those changes. Happy writing.